You're trying to get straight to the point on big topics, right? Get the core info, the stuff that really counts, without wading through tons of material.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's exactly what we're aiming for today. We're doing a deep dive into something pretty fascinating, pulling from a really significant source.
Yeah, and that source is Luis Elizondo's book, Imminent, Inside the Pentagon's Hunt for UFOs. Just came out in 2024.
Right.
And what makes it stand out is Elizondo himself. He's former intelligence, directly involved in the Pentagon's UAP investigations. Unidentified anomalous phenomena.
Who he was actually in there.
Exactly. An insider's view, which gives it a lot of credibility on a topic that's often, well, pushed aside.
Yeah, definitely not just guesswork here. We're talking about someone dealing with military encounters,
Yeah.
sensor data, real government programs looking into this stuff.
That's the core of it.
Okay, so, listener, our mission for you today, pull out the biggest things from this book. The surprising facts, the key developments, we'll keep it clear, engaging, cut through the jargon.
Give you a solid grasp of how the government's view on UAP is shifting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into it.
Okay, maybe start with some history. Because how the government's stance has changed is, well, it's pretty dramatic.
Yeah, for years it was just denial, wasn't it?
Total dismissal, pretty much. Chris Mellon talks about it in the foreword. You had credible military people, veterans reporting UAP, even near sensitive sites like nuclear bases. But the official Air Force line from 1970 all the way to 2017 was basically nothing we've checked out as a threat, nothing shows tech beyond ours.
Almost 50 years of saying nothing to see here.
Pretty much. It's kind of wild when you think about the reports they must have had.
Creates a real stigma, I imagine. Makes it hard for people to come forward. But then, 2017, things start to change.
That seems to be a turning point. And a key moment looks like when Elizondo first met Christopher Mellon. A mutual CIA contact connected them.
Okay.
And Mellon's description of Elizondo is interesting. Says he was super driven, energetic, charismatic, like a wrestler, not a typical DC type.
Huh. Give you a picture. He wasn't just going with the flow then.
No, definitely not. And that meeting kicked off a real partnership. They were both concerned. And importantly, early on, they started thinking UAP might not be just one thing. Meaning, maybe some are ours, terrestrial, but maybe some are, well, non-terrestrial, or something else entirely. That distinction becomes important when you look at specific cases.
Okay, like the Nimitz encounter. That one gets called the gold standard a lot. 2004.
Yeah, absolutely. So November 2004, you've got the USS Nimitz carrier group out there, the USS Princeton, an Aegis cruiser with really advanced radar.
Top-of-the-line stuff.
Right. It starts detecting multiple objects doing crazy maneuvers, dropping from super high altitudes, like low Earth orbit speeds, down to maybe 20,000 feet, then hovering, then just zipping off, instant acceleration, and this went on for days.
For days. Not just a one-off glitch.
No, persistent activity. And these speeds and movements, they just didn't match anything known.
So it wasn't just blips on a radar screen either, right? People saw something.
Oh, yeah. Eventually, they scrambled 2 FA-18s from the Nimitz to go take a look. Commander Dave Fravor, very experienced pilot.
Thousands of hours, yeah.
He and his wingman see it. Clear day. A 48-foot-long white object, no wings, no visible engines. The tic-tac.
The famous tic-tac.
That's the one. And Fravor's assessment, along with the other pilots, based on how it moved, its impossible performance. He said it was not from this world. These are trained observers, remember?
No, those impossible maneuvers. The speed, turning on a dime, no sonic boom.
Exactly, no visible propulsion, no exhaust. It just moved in ways our physics says things shouldn't. Any normal craft would rip apart.
So what makes this case so solid then?
It's the layers of proof. You've got 6 pilots, visual contact, multiple radar systems tracking it from different ships and planes, and then there's the FLIR video, the infrared camera footage.
Right, the footage that eventually got released.
Yeah, so multiple sensors, multiple eyewitnesses, video, and still no good conventional explanation has ever surfaced for what that tic-tac was.
Okay, so these events are happening, and then Elizondo gets involved around 2008. He mentions being pulled into a sensitive program.
That's right. That program was basically the start of funded UAP analysis, thanks to Senator Harry Reid.
Harry Reid's involvement.
Yeah, in 2008, Reid managed to get about $22 million in defense funding set aside. That created AATIP, the Advanced Aerospace Weapons System Application Program. Elizondo came in to handle security counterintelligence for it.
Okay.
AAWSAP later morphed into AATIP, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. That's where Elizondo really dug into the UAP investigations.
But it wasn't smooth sailing, was it?
Yeah.
The book talks about a lot of pushback inside the government.
Oh, absolutely. He describes major resistance, lack of support from the Air Force, parts of the intelligence community, even though Congress had funded it.
Really? They actively worked against it?
According to the book, yes. Elements within DoD tried to undermine and shut down AAWSAP initially. He and his team hit constant bureaucratic walls, just a general unwillingness inside the Pentagon to take UAP seriously.
Which seems crazy given things like the Nimitz encounter.
It highlights a real disconnect, doesn't it? Maybe a failure to deal with info that doesn't fit the standard view, which you could argue is a security risk in itself.
And all that resistance, the lack of support.
Yeah.
That's basically why Elizondo ended up resigning, right? To force the issue into the open.
That's the strong impression from the book, yeah. He felt the slumbering national security bureaucracy, as he puts it, wasn't addressing a potential threat. Resigning was a calculated move, a protest.
A pretty big step to take.
Definitely. Knowing the potential fallout.
So besides Nimitz, the book mentions other strange incidents. Those Colares events in Brazil in '77 sound really weird.
They are quite bizarre. Elizondo covers reports from Colares, Brazil. These mysterious lights, called chupa-chupa, means suck-suck,
Okay.
were reportedly chasing and attacking people, causing burns, even claims of blood being taken.
Seriously, did anyone official look into it?
Surprisingly, yes. The Brazilian Air Force launched Operation Saucer. They collected photos, videos of unexplained objects. One was estimated at maybe 300 feet long.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's a story of a doctor who stayed out to see one, described this shimmering thing as beautiful, but also kind of hypnotic. Strange stuff.
Definitely strange. And then there's the whole phenomena of orbs. They seem to pop up everywhere in UAP reports.
They really do. Orbs are a recurring theme. Elizondo notes they come in different colors: white, yellow, blue, red, green, and various sizes.
Is there anything specific about them?
Well, one thing he mentions, which is a bit disturbing, are reports linking blue orbs sometimes to negative biological effects if people get too close.
Like radiation.
Potentially. He even references that infamous Skinwalker Ranch incident, where dogs chased a blue orb and supposedly just vanished, left behind greasy spots with biological traces.
Yikes. Okay, going back to the Tic Tac for a second. There was something about it knowing where the fighter jets were supposed to go, the DAP point.
Yes, and this is a really crucial detail. Somehow, the Tic Tac seemed to know the pre-planned combat air patrol point for the FA-18s.
How would it know that? That info isn't broadcast, right?
Exactly. It's loaded into the jet systems beforehand. But the object showed up at that exact spot, like 60 miles away, almost instantly after the pilots left it.
So, not just advanced tech, but maybe some kind of intelligence gathering or prediction.
It implies that, potentially. An understanding of our military procedures, which obviously has huge national security implications. And Elizondo points out that even with all the evidence, multiple sensors, pilots, there wasn't much serious follow-up from the higher-ups at first, just more of that institutional inertia.
So these things are moving in ways that just break physics as we know it.
Yeah.
What does the book say about how they might be doing that? Propulsion, maneuverability.
Well, the key observation is they consistently lack the things we associate with flight. No wings, no engines we can see, no heat trails, no exhaust. They just seem to ignore gravity.
Yeah.
Elizondo brings up Hal Puthoff's idea of ultra-terrestrial models. It's a way to think beyond just aliens from another planet.
Like what?
Like maybe beings from other dimensions. Or maybe things living here on Earth, secretly crypto-terrestrials. Even time travelers are thrown in as a possibility. It just opens up the thinking.
Keeps the options open. The book also hits on that recurring theme of UAP interest in nuclear stuff, right?
Yes, and it is unsettling. There's this pattern. Sightings near nuclear reactor incidents, 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl, Fukushima, and also near nuclear missile silos.
Why? Any ideas?
That's the big question. Is it monitoring, concern about us blowing ourselves up, or something else entirely we don't understand? It's a persistent mystery.
And then there's the really out there idea, a warp drive, as an explanation for the speed and acceleration.
Yeah, Elizondo discusses the theory, creating a sort of bubble of altered space-time around the craft.
Like Star Trek.
Kind of, yeah. It's theoretical physics, but if it were possible, it could explain how they move so fast without experiencing the usual effects of acceleration or air resistance. Time and gravity inside the bubble would be different.
Would that explain some of the visual weirdness sometimes reported? Like distortion?
Potentially. Things like gravitational lensing light bending around it or Doppler shifts could make them look distorted or change color. It's speculative, but it tries to fit the observations.
The energy needed for that must be astronomical.
Immense. The book touches on speculative sources, zero-point energy from empty space itself, and even a really out-there idea about using water, specifically the deuterium in it, for some kind of advanced power.
Wow. Okay. Shifting gears a bit. The book also talks about biological effects on people and even recovered non-human materials.
It does go there. There are anecdotal reports of people experiencing physical effects after close encounters, possibly related to radiation.
Okay.
And then, more dramatically, claims about recovered non-human biological stuff. There's one account he details of an alleged autopsy on a body with really strange features. A smooth brain, 3-chambered heart, organs kind of fused together. The initial thought was maybe it was like a biological robot or automaton.
A biological robot.
Yeah, but he notes that thinking has evolved, questioning those initial assumptions about what non-human biology or intelligence might look like. It adds another layer, the potential human or biological cost.
And linked to that, these claims of a legacy program, defense contractors having actual material.
Yes, that's in there too. Allegations that big companies, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, others, might secretly hold UAP materials, maybe trying to reverse engineer them.
Like Area 51 kind of stuff, but with private companies.
That's the allegation, and extreme secrecy around it, potentially even keeping government oversight in the dark. Sounds like a thriller plot, but it's part of the narrative presented.
And it all builds this picture of decades of secrecy, government obfuscation, and that stigma you mentioned earlier.
Definitely. That stigma made serious work incredibly difficult for a long time. People were afraid to talk about it, afraid of ridicule.
But things did start to shift institutionally. The UAP task force.
Right. The formation of the UAP task force, initially led by Jay Stratton, was a big step, a more organized effort. And then came the legislative push.
In the NDAA, the defense budget bills?
Exactly. Getting UAP provisions into the National Defense Authorization Acts was huge. Things like whistleblower protections, really important for encouraging people with information to come forward safely. And establishing ARO, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office.
A dedicated office.
A dedicated office, yeah, to centralize the effort across different departments.
There was also that specific date mentioned in the legislation, wasn't there? January 1st, 1945. Why that date?
That's significant. It points towards the start of the nuclear age, right? Just before Roswell in 47. It suggests Congress wanted to look back at the history specifically from that era onwards.
Connecting it back to that nuclear interest, potentially.
It seems likely they want to understand that potential connection.
And then, of course, that big public hearing in Congress, July 2023. That felt like a watershed moment.
Absolutely historic. You had credible military witnesses, Fravor, Ryan Graves, David Grush testifying under oath.
In public, on camera.
Yeah, talking about encounters, objects outperforming our tech, and Grush making claims about recovered non-human craft and even bodies. That really shifted the public conversation, brought a new level of seriousness.
Okay, so bringing this all together, as we wrap up this deep dive, what are the main things you want the listener to take away from Elizondo's book and this whole story?
I think the biggest takeaway is simply this. UAP aren't just sci-fi anymore. There's compelling evidence, military sightings, sensor data, and because of persistent people like Elizondo and Mellon, the U.S. government is finally taking it seriously.
Right. We've gone from decades of brushing it off to actual congressional hearings and dedicated offices.
It's a major shift.
So for you, the listener, mission accomplished on this deep dive. Hopefully you've got a much clearer picture now of the key parts of the UAP story, especially through the lens of Elizondo's experiences.
Yeah, definitely. And maybe it leaves you with a final thought to chew on.
Go for it.
Well, considering everything we've discussed, the evidence in Imminent, the government's changing stance, what does this all mean for how we, humanity, see our place in the universe? What new questions does it raise for you about reality, about who or what else might be out there?
Big questions.
Huge questions. And it feels like this story is really just getting started, doesn't it? The implications could be.
Well, profound. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.